Hi, I'm Emily. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk about making the tulip block this is the Longwood quilt. This is for the block of the month, but we will also have a few kits that are just for the tulip kit available. So let me show you what comes in this little kit that was mailed out to the people who are participating in the block of the month. So number one is the pattern with complete instructions and the template, okay? Next, we have a lovely array of fabric that we'll use in the collage. And then we've got the background pieces, a generous supply of background pieces so that you can build the block. So let me now talk about the other supplies that you're going to need to have success with this pattern. This is a parchment pressing pattern, which means you are going to need parchment paper. This is the same thing as baking paper. It's nonstick and heat resistant, and it pairs perfectly with the adhesive that I recommend. Light Steam-A-Seam 2. Now, this is available for sale at collagequilter.com. In the roll, this is a 3-yard roll or as a packet like this. And when you purchase the individual kit, you will also get a packet of Steam-A-Seam. Okay, the other things that you're going to need are a handy dandy pair of scissors. These are my Karen K Buckley 6-inch scissors. You will need a pencil, pins. I really highly recommend these precise precision tweezers. I use these a lot, and you'll see me use these in this demonstration. And then I highly recommend, yes, this is going to be required. This wand iron is just, I love this iron. And along with the iron, have an iron rest so that you don't burn your house down, because this iron does not have an auto shut off. So just to keep it on this, keep your house safe, those two. And then finally, the last thing that you'll need is a working surface. I prefer to work on a surface that I can stick pins into and that I can press. So a wool pressing mat is great, but my preference, that works great, but my preference is just this silly little thing that I came up with. It's a piece of foam core and it has felt on top of it. Wool felt is desirable. If you can't have wool felt, then be really careful with synthetic felt. We don't want it to melt. So the parchment paper that you'll have on top of this will protect the felt. But anyway, so those are the items that you need, and let's go ahead and dig in on the collage part right now. All right, so I have traced this, and I want to talk to you real quick and just mention that all of these instructions are included in the pattern. So please read the instructions. But okay, so I've traced it. There have been a few questions about the third leaf. This is actually not a third leaf. This is an extension of this one. So let me show you what I mean. So that's what the dashed line means. If you want to make a full-size long tulip, you can do that. Clearly with my block, I cut it off and I thought it looked really cute to make it look like it's tucked in that bottom piece. But this is how you handle that. So you can see I've traced it to the end there, and then I just moved up. Now you can cut this out and tape it, or you can just go like this and finish the tracing. And you can see I didn't finish it all the way down because I'm gonna end it somewhere right down here. So that's how I've traced mine. And I went ahead and just I traced these, so both tulips are on the same piece, just for the sake of you getting to see the whole thing. Now the other thing is I really like to have the gray tone sitting by me so that I can, it's just a great reference, okay? So that's the first step. Trace your templates, and then the next thing that you'll want to do is make sure that all of your fabric has been prepared with Steam-A-Seam. So that's what it looks like on the back. I like to roll my Steam-A-Seam out, and then I put these blocks, all these squares that come in the kit, just right on it on a grid. It's a very easy, quick way to prepare Steam-A-Seam. And then I like to cut them in half and press the back of each side so that the Steam-A-Seam is adhered to the fabric. So all of this fabric has been prepared. And the next step, so if I want to start with the pink part of the tulip, let's say, it doesn't really matter where you start. So choose whatever you're comfortable with. I kind of like to start in the darkest section. And what I'm going to do, I'll set my green fabric aside for a minute and just work with the pink fabric. And what I'm going to do is just sort it according to values. And I'll probably just make a spectrum. Your assortment of fabric might vary slightly, okay? So I think that one is the lightest. These are the darkest. Then everything else that we've got in here is a mid-tone. So I think it probably goes something like this. Now, obviously some of these are really bright, but it's okay because we're not going to use very much of them. But I do also encourage you, if you have pink fabric that you'd like to incorporate into the design, please do. I think the more fabric that you can incorporate into the design, the better it's going to look. Okay, so there's the assortment of fabric that I have. Again, yours might vary a little bit from this. Most of you should have these pieces or things that are very, very similar. Okay, so now that I've done this, I'm going to pull this over again, and I'm working upside down. So I'm gonna pin that end, and now I'm just gonna slide my fabrics over kind of the way I sorted them, just so that I can see everything and remember kind of the value spectrum that we've got. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this one first. So I've got my iron is hot, I've got my scissors here, I've got everything I need. All right, so let's just dig in. Let's start again with kind of the darker pieces of fabric. It really does not matter the shape that you cut. It's a little bit like a puzzle, and we're just trying to make the pieces fit, okay? So there we go, that was easy enough. I really don't worry too much about the shape of each piece. And the first few pieces are not going to stick to the parchment paper because it's designed not to stick, right? And sometimes when I score the paper, like I just did, it will pull a few threads off the edge. So if you need to just clean those up with a quick stroke of your scissors. Make sure that you cut off all traces of the Steam-A-Seam too, so that you're not ironing. Now, so the idea is that I'm just overlapping the pieces, right? The other thing I want to show you is if I lift this up, you can see that I kind of fudged. I didn't bring the darker one all the way up here. That's okay. This is really just a guideline. So don't stress about that. Okay. So the size of the pieces that I'm applying are, oh, you can see the size of my hands, right? So there, and this is a pretty small little area, so you need to make them, I don't know, maybe the size of your finger, so that there is a wide enough variety. The advantage with doing a little bit smaller pieces is that you can incorporate a wider variety of fabric. The more fabric you can incorporate, the more interesting your collage will be. Okay, so it's kind of helpful to keep a trash nearby because you're going to accumulate some significant garbage here. And then the other thing that's kind of funny is I tend to get this pencil rubs off on my fingers, so I need to keep hand wipes nearby to kind of just stay clean and tidy as I'm working. There we go. Okay, let's continue. I will tell you something, I really love the interplay between the warm orange and these cooler pink colors. I think that's really pretty. All right, so I finished this tulip, but I'm not super happy with this. I just think that there's no transition between the dark and this area over here. So I'm going to show you, this is a time when I will use my tweezers, and I'm going to pull this out. If you can see the fabric that I have, so I think this one needs to be traded out, and I think also that this is just dark. So this one is a shade lighter, so I'm just gonna move that in place a little bit, like right down there. Just kind of trim that. And then I'm gonna select some fabric that I think there are parts of this that are just a little bit darker than this. So see how there's a slight variation, and it's those slight variations that I think I need to pay attention to. This one also would probably be a good choice. The other one that I see in here is, and you can kind of see where I've used that with, I've fussy cut this on this orange one to incorporate some of that blue. It adds a little bit of depth, and it's a little darker, so that might be a good choice. So I'm just going to show you on some of the fabric that I have how I would do this. So I'm kind of fussy cutting for the color that's in here, and that piece is, yeah, that's pretty good like that. Let's see if I feel like that looks, yeah, that softens it a little bit, I think, because it's got the blue in there. And then I'll add a little bit of the darker pink too. And let's put a little bit of this in there. Yeah, I think that really helps to pull that out, to just rearrange those ever so slightly. And now I feel like that works a little bit better. The other thing I want to point out that I did with this is, in this one, I kind of think about, you know, if the sunlight or light source is coming from somewhere up above, right? We know it's somewhere up above because we see some highlights here on the petals. And as it goes around, it gets darker, right? Dark down here, and then it gets lighter on the way up. And I actually did the same thing with this piece here. Even though the indication is that it's all the same value, I started really light up here and then transitioned down to a little bit darker. So I feel really good about that now. I think the only thing, well, this has kind of a sharp angle or a sharp end to it, and I think I might just want to put some little teeny, or maybe move a piece in there. Let's see here. If I just were to, I mean, tiny bit, tiny bit, kind of like, maybe like that, something like that. So, anyway, okay, so now I'm going to do this green section here for you. Let's see if that's where I want it. Sure, that's great. Now I'm going to do this green section here, and I want to talk a little bit about this before I get rolling again. On the value sheet, this section right here is the darkest. Then this is a little bit darker. The thing I want to point out is that to indicate the stem of the tulip, we've got a lighter area and then the darker area. So Let's see, let's pull over my green fabrics. I think, oh, the other thing that I wanted to point out is this piece that I have in here is kind of teal, and blue is a cooler, teal has, it's kind of a blue-green, right? Well, blue is the coolest color. So that will help create a little more depth in this, especially if I put something on top here that is pretty warm. Let's see here. So if I do something like that, now that means this is really harsh. So I might soften that by putting a different color there. There. Okay. So I'm just gonna keep going. folks, I have finished the collage of the tulips, and I have 2 tips for you that I want you to keep in mind. Number 1, don't overthink things. I just want you to play and have fun with the fabric. Enjoy this process. And number 2, take a picture with your phone. Got my trusty phone right here. So one of my favorite tips is to take a picture of what I'm working on and look at it through my camera, because it changes the perspective and it's just incredibly helpful to see it with fresh eyes through the camera lens. So now I'm going to go take my fabric pieces, my foundation or my background fabric, and put the block together, cut it and put the block together. All those instructions for the size of pieces that I need are in the pattern. So I will be right back after I get these cut and pieced together. Okay, so I have taken the fabric and I was able to make two blocks with this. You might even be able to make more. I was pretty generous with the fabric that I gave you. And I want to point out something kind of fun. I love a good stripe because I love the way it frames the edge of, the edges of a block. So you can select whatever edges you like. I tend to really like that flower part of the stripe. And this one I used all the same. I really like the way that turned out too. One other thing that I want to point out, the fabric is directional. So while it's subtle, you might want to pay attention to that so that your blocks, especially your center block, the birds are upright. So anyway, I've got these all pieced together. The seams are nested. If you want more information about the seams getting nested, maybe I should do a video for that. But let's put this block together. Now I have pressed all of these pieces together in my collage so they all stick together. And now the magic happens. I get to peel it off and put it on the block. So this is why I love Steam-A-Scene. It comes together, it comes off in one piece like a sticker. Look at that. I love it. And so now I can put it on my block and make the composition however I choose. Make sure that you can see this. Now, as I said with my original, I liked to make it look like it was coming out from underneath the block, like the leaves, the tulip were kind of growing from the edge. So I think this will look good. And then I'm just gonna kind of trim right there. And I'll trim this edge too. Now let me hold this up. So this is temporarily adhered. I think that's the way I like it. There we go. Now the next step is now I'm looking at it upside down, so let me just confirm. Yes, I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with that. So now is the time that I'm going to press this, the final pressing, and I'm going to steam it. So I would normally do this on my ironing board, but okay, first of all, I'm going to press it on here. Make sure it is right where I want it to be. And then I will steam it. Okay, so that's where I want it. And now I'm going to steam it a little bit. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to spray it this way, and I'm going to spray it on this side too. And that steam is going to help the temporary fusible dissipate. Now, Let me also say that this is the point where it's important to have pre-shrunk your fabric. This is why in the instructions I recommend that you wash your fabric. This fabric, the background fabric, I recommend washing it so that you can pre-shrink it. Or you can do this before you do your seam. But the point is, this fabric will shrink slightly. And so we don't want that shrinking to happen after we've measured and cut everything. We want it to be pre-shrunk before we make the block. Because this part will definitely shrink it if you haven't already done that. And now I'm going to press it on this side too. And again, I think I'll add another little bit of water. Okay, so as I'm finishing this up, let me just give you a few more tips. So at this point, now this block is ready to quilt. I don't quilt before I apply the collage. I treat this as the finished quilt top. So if you're following along in the block of the month, now you can set this block aside, you're done, and wait patiently for the next block to come. If you bought this individually, separately, you can put this in another quilt, or you can now make a pillow or add it to, you can decide what you want to do, but there we go. There's the finished block. And I'm gonna actually, I think I might turn this one into a pillow because I've already made my quilt. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you have any questions, a really good resource for you will be to visit the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. So that is the group specifically where people are working on my patterns, and right now we're working on the block of the month. It's a great place to ask questions that I can respond to, but then also other people in the group who are working on the pattern can also respond to your questions. So I hope to see you in the group, and I hope that you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. I'll see you again very soon. Take care.